Hi ho ho, it's me, George Romero, back at it again with a new episode of the Boy Time Podcast. I think I've already used that name before, but as always, I'm joined by Babby and Paul.
Oh,
Uh, yes, we have a very exciting episode this week. Not going to be as dense as the last one. A lot of interesting discussion-y type things with Succession and Barbie. Um, So none of that, I don't think, unless something comes up that I am not aware of. But as personally, I don't think I have anything like that prepared. I have still not seen the bear. Um, haven't even finished half the first episode, of the second season. So, whoops. But I guess I'll talk about that once I see it. But that's going to be a while, I think. Um, this week I watched 3 zombie movies, so I'll talk about those when we get there. But first, we have some gaming news. Um, some, I well, gaming news. But I guess for those who have not seen it, Red Dead Redemption, the first one, is getting a re-release. I don't think it's a remaster, thankfully, to some. I don't know. Last time Rockstar tried a remaster, it didn't really work very well. So maybe it's a good thing that they aren't remastering the first Red Dead. But it is getting a remaster, interesting release, I guess, selection, because it is coming to the Switch and the PS4. So not a PS5. It's coming to the PS4. I'm not sure why. These are like why the Switch? I don't know, and not Xbox. I don't know. This is very confusing to me. Yeah, it's not a remaster. I think it's just a re-release, a port, if you will, just a straight up port. It does come with the Undead Nightmare DLC, which is
Classic.
classic. Not played it.
It's awesome.
Okay, well, here's the thing. I will be playing it very soon. Because I have not talked about this on the podcast, but I have been getting into retro gaming. And by retro gaming, I mean I got a PS2 at a local video game store.
Let's go.
Very, very fun. By the way, if you guys are into gaming at all and you just go to GameStop or something, stop doing that. Go to local video game stores. I will live and die by local hobby stores. I got a PS2, the first 3 Metal Gear Solid games, the first God of War, Battlefront 2, and Red Dead Revolver for $100. So
Easy.
yeah, granted, surprisingly, I thought that older games were like expensive on eBay. I know that there's a reputation. I think that might be specifically Nintendo games, specifically Pokemon games, are have a reputation of being very, very expensive. But yeah, like you can get like PS3 games pretty cheap and PS2 games also. So I've been getting into that. I also got a PS3. First time I've ever used a PS3. It's a little confusing, but it's not one of the fancy ones. It is one of those ones that has the sliding top, which is pretty fun. Just sliding that around. So that's pretty cool. But I played the first Metal Gear Solid game all the way through. What a clusterfuck that was. If you have not played any of the Metal Gear Solid games, you're missing out. But man, their stories are all over the place.
yeah, Metal Gear Rising Revengeance, that's a banger though.
I have not
It's
played
the
that
only
one.
one I've ever played, and it's incredible.
Well, I imagine the stories go off the rails in that one. If it's anything like
Story
the
is
Solid
actually,
games.
I mean, I didn't really pay much attention to it because it's less story, more of an action game.
Is
I
that
mean,
the
it's the one with the
what's his
freaking
name?
memes of like the guy says something about memes and Senator Armstrong. That's like, I don't know.
Oh,
There's memes
yeah,
all
yeah, yeah.
over.
The guy who has like the corrupted arm, I think, and he's like really swole. Is that?
Maybe,
No, I think
yeah.
that might be Metal Gear Solid 4.
Or I guess it's a different one.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I know a lot of memes come out of Metal Gear Solid because there's a lot of weird lines and yeah, like Otacon, who's like your nerd guy in the chair thing. I think he pisses himself in every single Metal Gear Solid game, which is a little strange. But I guess it's a running joke. But yeah, the first one starts off really simple, or as simple as any sort of like spy game would be. It kind of feels like a Tom Clancy type thing, where it's like you are on a secret top secret Black Ops mission. You're infiltrating this base in Alaska that was developing some sort of top secret weapon. And terrorists have taken over, and they have nukes pointed at the White House, and they are demanding, I think, like a bunch of money and Big Boss's DNA, which I don't really know if they go into who Big Boss is in the first Metal Gear Solid game, but I think, if I'm remembering right, I've only played the first one and the fifth one. And I think you play as Big Boss in the fifth one, so there you go, a little tie-in. But yeah, it's very like, okay, now you got to sneak in and take out the terrorists, and then it just goes off the rails. And there's like 5-minute cut scenes where bad guys will explain their entire motivation and like the societal implications of what is going on. They're very politically charged games. Not that that's too surprising with Hideo Kojima's work post Metal Gear Solid, which I guess is just Death Stranding. But it is, that game has a lot of societal things in it, where it's like, we need to. It's kind of funny that game came out and the whole message is like, we need to come together and work together as a society, and then like a global society, and then a pandemic hit. So
Society.
yeah, it's very funny.
Society.
But yeah, the first Metal Gear game is pretty fun. It's top down, and you have to play it on the D-pad because it was released for the first PlayStation, which kind of sucks, honestly. But once you get used to it, you get used to it, and it's pretty fun. So yeah, I think I'm gonna play through them all. I have since gotten Metal Gear Solid 4, so I have all of them in some sort. I think I have Metal Gear Solid 5 on PC and on my PlayStation, so yeah, I'll be able to play through them all. But I think I'm going to take a break and play Red Dead Redemption. And I was super pumped. I'm like, yay, this game's not on anything. So now I finally have a PS3 and I can play Red Dead Redemption 1. And then it just got announced that they're porting it to the Switch, which I'm not going to play it on the Switch. But I might play it on my PlayStation. But if it's just a port, I'll just play it on the PS3 and it's fine. But yeah, that's pretty fun. There have been some rumbling, some rumors. The streets are talking that
Rumble.
GTA 6 is, I guess, well, last time there was anything that kind of leaked from it, it wasn't officially an alpha. I think this was a couple months ago. And it looks a lot better than the pre-alpha did, obviously. So by now we're probably nearing a beta, which means that the game is pretty close to release. In the investor sales call, like the fiscal year sales call at 2K, which is the company that owns Rockstar, they said we are going to expect a record-breaking fiscal year next fiscal year, which would, I mean, it is implying that they are going to be either doing something or releasing something major in the next fiscal year, according everything goes to plan. So that would mean that GTA 6 would be releasing before March of 2025, if that is the next
Yes.
fiscal year.
I do believe so.
So that is, I guess, exciting. That is the last next Rockstar thing we know of, which is kind of crazy that all they have said officially is we are working on it, and we know so much about the game just because of how much has leaked out of the studio, and I guess just kind of reading between the lines of what 2K is saying. So that's pretty exciting. GTA 5 is a good game, but it came out what even 10 years? I think it's been 10 years yet.
10 years, yeah.
I think
It was originally on
nine
the
at least.
PS3, so keep that in mind. Yeah, I was looking at my video game store and I'm like, man, GTA 5 and Skyrim are both on the PS3, and sequels for those games have not come out yet, which is kind of crazy considering how big those games are. I guess GTA 5 continues to be a big game, and Skyrim, I mean, it is a big game, but like, you know,
I'd say to a lesser extent.
to a lesser extent, and Bethesda's not making a lot of money from Skyrim, or at least not the same amount of money that
Well,
Rockstar
they
is
don't
getting from
monetize it
GTA
with
5.
shark cards or whatever.
Yes.
They just have like tiny like addables, I guess, like
Yes,
tiny
they
DLCs.
do. They do. I think they monetized modding in some fashion.
On console,
on
not
console.
on PC. I don't think that'd be very possible, and everyone would absolutely riot.
Yes, I remember people did riot when that happened. But,
Oh, it'd be way bigger a riot than what you heard of.
yeah.
Because
Yeah.
Skyrim's like the only reason people play nowadays is modding, really.
Oh, that's true. That is true. It's still a good game, but you know, all they
Oh,
do
yeah.
is re-release it over and over and over and over again. Which, you know, maybe re-release Oblivion or Morrowind. Those games need a facelift. Oblivion could use some new voice lines.
I don't know. I think all of the mess that Oblivion is kind of gives it its charm. I think if
That's
they
true.
redid anything, it'd probably just be automatically ruined. Morrowind, though, from the little I've seen of that could for sure be cool if they actually remade it.
They should just embrace the glitches and re-release it with all the glitches intact.
Honestly, with Oblivion, I think most people would accept that.
Yeah. It's kind of part of the game's like legacy at this point.
Like you could literally release like a full remade Oblivion with good graphics and stuff, and just have the stupid AI that the original Oblivion had, and no one would complain. In fact, they'd probably compliment it.
It's just a modern day Bethesda game. There's nothing different about it. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the
Skate
easiest
3.
game they could remake.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the only thing they would need to do is get rid of the like game breaking bugs that are still in Oblivion.
For sure.
I know there is like potential like save game corrupting bugs in Oblivion still. Not that they are. I say that as if they are actively supporting it, which they obviously are not. So yeah, they should remake it or like re-release it at least, and just get rid of those bugs. They should do the same with New Vegas because that game crashes all the time.
They do need to remake New Vegas.
Yes, one of the best games of all time, I would say.
And it's hardly playable anymore.
It is. To make it even work, you have to download mods, at least on the PC.
I think I played it fine without mods. I'm not sure.
I did like 7 years ago and it worked fine, but I tried it recently and I don't know what's wrong with it.
This is like 2 years. Well, I can check on my Steam right here. I think it was
There you
like
go.
2 years ago I played it.
I just replayed it a couple months ago, actually.
Yep, January of 2 years ago. And I don't remember having many issues.
Mine
clunky.
crashed.
Well,
Mine
of
crashed
course
all
it
the
is,
time.
But
Yeah.
Yeah, it.
I guess I'm just lucky. I don't know.
You must be lucky because
You had
mine
my
crashed all the
Cyberpunk
time.
luck where my game actually worked for some reason and nobody else's did.
That's true. Sometimes I've had that happen. I can't name any examples, but I know that I've had games work. Like I think like the first Jedi like Fallen Order game, everybody was like, "This game is buggy mess," but mine was fine. So
Yes,
sometimes
but
you just get lucky.
I guess.
And I did not get lucky with New Vegas. I had to download so many mods to get it to work, and it still crashed at least like twice every playthrough that I was doing. So, yeah, but it's a very, very good game. I don't know if there has been a better RPG since New Vegas, if I'm being honest.
Oblivion.
Well, since New Vegas is what I'm saying. I think Oblivion came out
Oh.
before.
Yeah, good point. I think it did.
Not that Oblivion is better than New Vegas. I haven't played it, but yeah, New Vegas is it's something else. It's something else. How everything works.
Honestly, hot take, but I'd consider Oblivion probably better than New Vegas.
Wow, I can't. I mean, I
The
can't.
hottest of
I
takes.
can't
I don't even
dispute
think I
that.
fully finished Oblivion. I got like 80% through.
I can't dispute it. I have not played, but I will. I will take your word for it.
All right.
I know that they're on Game Pass, so maybe someday,
Mm-hmm.
someday I will play Oblivion. But yeah, so I don't know. I guess that ends the gaming section because that was
There
it.
is
I
one
hate
more.
that section.
There's one more.
Possibly. This is just a warning.
Warning.
Oh.
CS2 might be out this time next week. We don't know yet, though.
Oh,
The last CSGO tournament ever was played this weekend. And there's rumors that August 10th is the day it's dropping. But we also don't know. It could also be August 21st. There's 2 dates that are like, it's going to be one of these. We don't know which one it is, though.
and is this an open beta or is this a release?
I'm guessing it's going to be a full release.
Okay.
They've been doing the beta limited test, and they've been swapping out maps and stuff consistently. So they've made it through most of the maps. So everything's been tested at this point.
Oh, okay.
So
Well, that's exciting.
it could be coming very soon.
Maybe.
Or we'll get Valve timing, then it won't come out until late September. But
Or
2 dates that are basically like it are the 10th and the 21st. So
or it'll come out next Wednesday.
yeah, of course it will. That's what I'm expecting.
Yeah, that's what
I'm just like
expecting.
making it written like it is on the airwaves now that it is coming soon. So if we get
hopefully.
podcast timing, just know that I know.
Yeah, or it'll come out tomorrow. Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, okay, we'll talk about that when it comes out. Obviously.
I know absolutely nothing about it. It kind of came out of nowhere for me because I don't really care much about CSGO. But is it like just kind of like a repolishing kind of, or is it like a full
It's
new
in Source
thing?
2, so it's a completely different engine, like
Mm.
built ground up. So it
It's
like
just like a kind of new
has some of the
engine
same
then?
physics of but it like uses all the physics of like Half-Life Alex and stuff like that. So it's like a lot more updated.
Yes.
CSGO 2 in VR then?
Probably not.
Maybe.
It's the new Pavlov.
Yeah, that'd be weird.
Yeah.
How do you spray control in VR?
I mean, there's already a bunch of guns that are gun games that probably deal with it. So
Horseshoes.
Oh, they do
What is
deal with
that?
it,
What's
yeah.
horseshoes, hand
hand
grenades, and
Something.
hot dogs.
hot dogs? Hot dogs,
Something like
horseshoes,
that.
and hand grenades. That's like the gun game.
I know there's, I don't remember what it was called, but there's a certain VR gun game that's like one of the top ones. It's like supposed to be like very, very realistic. It has like the gun spray and everything. Fire
Gorn?
spray. No.
Gorn.
It's the most
I
realistic
don't think
VR
it's
game I know.
Pavlov. I don't think it's Pavlov. What is it?
Radius.
No. Tops. I'm getting. Okay, let me look for like 2 minutes. We'll come back to this.
Okay. We'll circle back
After
Okay.
these messages.
after
Yeah,
these
after
messages. We don't have any sponsors or anything.
Wah, wah, wah.
I guess I'll go into my little preface thing for the movie while Paul does the research.
Search time.
Yeah. So I thought it would be interesting this week. I watched 3 zombie movies and I watched maybe the first zombie movie. and then a kind of in between zombie movie between a George Romero movie, and then I watched a zombie movie from the 80s. And then I watched a modern day zombie movie. And by modern day, I mean 2014. I was going to watch the Zack Snyder Dawn of the Dead remake, because I would say that is probably the most influential zombie movie of the modern era. I mean, I think it kicked off the zombie boom of the early 2010s, where literally everything became a zombie thing. Even Red Dead Redemption, which we just talked about, had a whole zombie mode to it. To the point where when The Last of Us came out in 2013, people were like dismissive of it as being like, oh, trying to cash in on the zombie fad, eh? Which is kind of funny watching reviews of the time, just being like, it's just another zombie thing. And then like 2 years later, everybody being like, it's the best game of all time. But yeah, I was going to watch the Dawn of the Dead remake, and I just did not. So, sorry. I don't know. I don't know if that one has as much like lasting power as some of the other ones. But did you find the gun game?
Yeah, it's called Contractors. It's literally just CS:GO in VR by the looks of it, but I guess it wasn't like the extremely realistic game I was looking for. I think that might be Pavlov, but
Pavlov is pretty realistic.
Oh no, Zero Caliber. Was it this game? Yeah, I think it was Zero Caliber. Maybe.
Zero Calibers?
Yeah, I mean the description for the game is PvP and mod sport with 40 plus realistic firearms and melee weapons. Realistic physics and other stuff realistic.
Realistic,
I think Zero Caliber is the game I was thinking.
Like a stun baton or something? It's a realistic melee weapon. A knife? What are we in England?
Oi.
Oi, love. Gonna gotcha.
With me shank.
With me shank. But yeah, let's talk about zombies. Because, yeah, I will give a little preface that when I was a kid to probably early adulthood, I did not care about zombies at all. And then I played The Last of Us, and I was like, oh, okay, I get it. And I think The Last of Us is kind of a good... it's a good example of, like, kind of George Romero's original vision for zombies, which is, like, the most played out thing these days. But, like, you know, George Romero... I'm not going to give a whole, like, description on the guy. But he made like industrial films before he started making zombie movies, which are kind of like, it's hard to describe industrial movies, but like think of like workplace training movies of like the 70s, where it's like a guy getting his arm caught in like a shredder or something, and it's like, don't do this. If you put your arm in the shredder, then your arm will get torn off. So do not do this on the work site. That's kind of an industrial movie. Or they're like movies that are I don't know enough about them, obviously. But they're more or less just like, or a PSA, that would be kind of a industrial type movie. So not really any sort of artistic vision or really anything like that. It is to get a point across, kind of in between a commercial and a like a movie, I guess. They're kind of an in-between type thing. So he was an industrial filmmaker making these workplace training videos. And then he made a little movie with a fella named Jack Russo, who is a talentless hack who somehow got attached to Night of the Living Dead, 1968. And it completely changed everything, I guess. There is no modern zombie without this movie. In fact, the word zombie is not even said in this movie at all. And George Romero said, "Yeah, I didn't even think about them as zombies. Like, they're called ghouls, which I think is great. I think we need to start bringing back ghoul because it's a great word, and nobody ever says it. Because like ghosts, people say ghosts in relation to Zach Baggins and a lot of his haunted museum in Las Vegas.
Shenanigans.
Yeah, his shenanigans of sorts. I can't wait to see the Ed Gein barrel in the haunted museum when
Yes.
I eventually go to Las Vegas. I am actually going. It is my legit plan to go to the Zach Baggins Haunted Museum if I ever find myself in Las Vegas.
Road trip.
Road boy trip to the Zach Baggins Haunted Museum. Oh, that sounds like the
I'll
worst.
fly there and meet you guys.
We're going to Las Vegas, but we're not going to like gamble or
No, that's
hook
stupid.
up with prostitutes or anything like that, or see an Elvis like what do they call them?
Impersonators.
Impersonators. No, we're going to the Zach
Sus.
Baggins Museum. We're not even seeing the Grand Canyon. We're going to the Zach Baggins Haunted
I've already
Museum.
seen the Grand Canyon. I don't need that.
I've seen it
All
in
I
a
need is my
picture.
spooky ghost museum.
I can't wait to see John Wayne Gacy's knife. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's in it, but we will find out soon. I say soon like we have that planned. But you know, soon in the grand scheme of things. Soon in like Big Bang time. We're
Yeah.
like, yeah,
It's like 5 years.
you know, it's going to be 30 years from now, but compared to how long the entire universe has been in existence, it's pretty soon if you think about it that way.
Basically next year at that point.
Yeah, pretty much. Like even it's tomorrow. But I guess back to George Romero. Yeah, so this is the impetus of the zombie fad. I think there were movies that had zombies in them before, but before this movie, zombies were like, I think the word zombie came from like I don't know what culture it is in the Caribbean, but it is I think it might be Barbados, where it was like
Jamaican?
Jamaica? I don't know. I clearly
Is
did not do
voodoo? I don't know.
it. Is like
Voodoo's
Yeah.
Haitian, I think.
I don't
Haiti,
know.
maybe?
I don't know.
Yeah, Google. Let's see.
We're all just like,
Someone researched this. I'm just going to start keep
West
lying.
African is the origination of zombies.
Okay,
okay.
I could see that. Yeah, it might be. I might be getting the Caribbean thing, in that like people from West Africa were taken to the Caribbean for
Yeah.
slave stuff. So that's probably where I'm getting that. But yes, so it was kind of like, you know, I don't know if it was like, you know, white people see like people from the Barbados or whatever, and they're like, ooh, they're into all sorts of kooky weirdo stuff like zombies and shrinking heads and stuff like that. But yeah, before it would have been like some voodoo black magic person rising like zombies from the grave. But it wouldn't be necessarily like cannibalistic or anything like that. That is pretty much, you can credit that to George Romero. The thing with the first movie is that there's no reason why the zombies are there. This is straight up a zombies as metaphor thing, which is like the cliche when it comes to like zombies these days. But back then, it was a pretty interesting concept where it's like, oh, for some reason, the recently deceased. So it isn't like people are coming out of graves. It is like people who just died. They are coming to life and they are eating people. Keep in mind, it is not they are eating brains. That is a common misconception, that the George Romero zombies are about brains. We will get into where that comes from later. But they just eat people. And it isn't necessarily that they're biting people to turn them into zombies either. It's just like they're eating people. They're full on cannibals, and nobody can figure out what is going on. It follows this. So I guess this is where the social commentary comes from. It's very interesting because the movie came out in 1968. So yeah, a lot of stuff happening in the country in the late 60s, especially in this time. We had the assassinations of very high profile civil rights leaders. I think MLK and Malcolm X were probably both assassinated before this point. And George Romero, either consciously or unconsciously, he claims that it was unconscious, but watching the movie, it has to be on purpose that he cast a black man as the lead. And it is a cliche in horror movies that, black people die first. I don't know where that comes from, honestly. I have not seen enough of like big tentpole horror movies to know. But yeah, there is the black man as the lead, as the reasonable, practical kind of leader figure. And not only is he I guess, spoilers for a 50-year-old movie.
The oldest movie of all time.
1968. Not only is he not the first one to die, he is the last one to die. He's the last one alive, which is kind of refreshing, because it isn't like, sometimes in like, and I'm gonna throw 90s and 2000s horror movies under the bus a little bit, because I feel like they would put black characters, or I guess minority characters in general, because the 2000s were weirdly anti-Asian, or like Asian people were only used as a stereotype and they were all doing that accent, I'm not going to replicate it because that would be very insensitive. But yeah, even if like this is an Asian guy from Utah and he's talking like that for no reason other than we need an Asian person, and he's probably dressed in a gi and eating noodles and like stuff like that. It's just like, for some reason the 2000s were all about there's Asians and we don't know anything about their culture, so let's just like use that. I'm thinking of Freaky Friday specifically, where in like the original Freaky Friday, it's just like some weirdo magic that switches their bodies. But in the Jamie Lee Curtis and Lindsay Lohan version, I don't know if either of you have seen this movie or remember it.
I have no reason to see that movie.
You don't. But for some reason, the impetus for why they switch bodies, they go to a Chinese food restaurant, and it is a fortune cookie that switches their body. Ooh. And it is implied that weird Chinese lady at the Chinese restaurant used some sort of Chinese voodoo on us. I think that is actually a line in the movie. So
probably.
It's weird that a movie from like the 70s was remade in the 2000s, and then they inserted some weirdo anti-Asian racism in it for some reason. We're getting a little off track. But yeah, so in terms of like black representation in the 90s and 2000s, similar thing, very stereotypical. They're all doing that voice. Again, not going to replicate it because that would also be insensitive. But they are doing like heightened like AAVE, and then they all die right away. And so like it's kind of weird going back and seeing, especially in this time where like black people, especially at this point, I would say like morale was pretty low. Like a lot of their leaders were getting killed, and it kind of felt hopeless. So like, it's kind of cool to see a black character lead, and not only that, but like be the last one alive. It's kind of interesting because, yeah, everyone. So I'll briefly go into what the story is because it's kind of interesting. The famous line "They're coming to get you, Barbara" is from this movie. It starts with a brother and sister, and they're going to a graveyard to, I guess, like put some sort of memorial on a grave, and yeah, they're like, oh, there's a weird dude, and and the brother's like, hey, he's coming to get you, Barbara. He's gonna kill you, this random person in the cemetery. And she's like, oh, knock it off. And then she like walks over to this random guy and is like, hey, I'm sorry for him if you hurt him. And then that guy turns out to be a zombie. Oh no, very scary. And then the zombie kills the brother, and then Barbara ends up running away to a house. And in that house, she kind of has a mental breakdown, and then the black lead character comes in and kind of takes control of the situation. He starts boarding up all the windows and all the doors. And it's like, okay, we need to just hole up in here until everything calms down. And they have a radio, and that radio is giving broadcasts and updating them on like what the White House is doing, and it's basically like the eastern third of the country, just randomly. The recently deceased have come alive, and they are eating people. Oh no. I wonder what will happen.
I don't live there.
I don't live there, so I don't care. I don't even know
That's their problem.
That's right.
Sight out of mind.
That's right. Which is kind of weird that like it happened in Washington D.C., but like when eventually they find a TV in like the upstairs of this abandoned house. Don't think about it too much. But there's a TV, and they pull it out, and then they're watching news broadcasts, and everything that they show in Washington D.C. looks pretty fine. Like there's like a bunch of reporters there, but like, no zombies. So that's a plus, I would say. So for some reason, Washington D.C. was unaffected, which is pretty cool. And the opposite of what happens in the beginning of Dawn of the Dead, which is the quasi sequel to this movie, where it starts with a SWAT team raiding a like low income apartment building, or I guess like a government project type thing, and just like going through the building and killing all the zombies, but also killing minorities, and it doesn't matter. George Romero likes societal messages, which I guess all good horror movies should have, but
what's the point of a horror movie?
it's the point. Yeah, that's that should be the point. It shouldn't be, ooh, scary monster, jump scare me. But yeah, so opposite happens in Dawn of the Dead. But yeah, in terms of zombie stuff, this introduces, you gotta destroy the brain or burn the body to kill it. And zombies are afraid of fire. And it's kind of, it's the first one. And it still holds up. It is very good. Not as good as Dawn of the Dead for me. I love Dawn of the Dead. It's a great movie. It really is just like, let's do Night of the Living Dead, but bigger. Instead of just holding up in a house, we're going to hole up in a mall. And the zombies are going to be really stupid for some reason. And we're going to have like pie fights with the zombies. we're going to smush this zombie with some banana cream pie. Which is awesome. It's an awesome movie. But yeah, it's kind of interesting. It's very bleak and nihilistic, and it's scary. It's a scary movie. There's some high intensity stuff. I would say it starts kind of slow. But then eventually they find like a bunch of people hiding in the basement. And the daughter is sick. The daughter was attacked by a zombie, and oh no, we need to take care of the daughter. I wonder what will happen. This happens in every zombie movie after this, where it's like, I'm gonna.
Why do people not learn?
I know. Well, they didn't. This was this was the first one. so
Right.
yeah.
They have an excuse.
They have
but
an
only they.
excuse. Everyone else was ripping off this. Well,
Yeah,
even
come
it
on,
wasn't
dude.
even like the daughter was hiding it. She's like out cold. And it takes her a very long time to become a zombie. But after she becomes a zombie, she like is like weirdly smart to the point where like her mom is like freaking out and she's like, "Oh no, I'm not going to kill my daughter." But then like the daughter who becomes a zombie picks up like a garden trowel and then like stabs her. And I'm like, I've never seen a zombie use tools before. This is like very foreign to me. And I guess this was like early enough to where they're like, oh, this, and you know, she doesn't even eat the mom. She just like stabs her with a garden trowel and then just like turns around and then eats her dead dad. So I don't know. Society.
Which one did she like more, do you think?
I don't know. It says a lot
I mean, in
about.
real life.
I mean the actors. But yeah, it was just kind of weird. But interestingly, like even though she was killed with a garden trowel and was not bitten at all, she becomes a zombie because the recently deceased just get up, which is you know, that's different. Nobody uses that part of this story, which I think is for the best. I think you got to get bitten or something. We're going to talk about that a little bit more when I talk about the modern one that I watched, which is kind of trash. It's trashy schlock, but it's kind of fun. I don't know. But yeah, that's enough about Night of the Living Dead. Yeah, I would highly recommend it. It's on Max. I think all of the George Romero Dead movies are on there. Which is kind of interesting. It's kind of interesting how they're named because the first one is Night of the Living Dead. And that is the first one in the George Romero zombie trilogy, which is followed up by Dawn of the Dead and then Day of the Dead. Neither of which have the Living Dead because remember that talentless hack Jack Russo I was talking about who somehow got attached to this? For some reason, he holds the copyright to Of the Living Dead.
Awesome.
So George Romero could not do that. And Jack Russo was maybe infamously in charge of it's like 2000 something. It was a re-release of Return of the not Return, but Night of the Living Dead in the 2000s, and he shot new scenes for it. Like George Lucas or something. And he like inserted them in, like fleshing out the random zombie that they find in the cemetery. It's like, we need to know their backstory. We need to know why a corpse is in a cemetery. It's like, no, don't do that. And it's like shot on newer cameras, so you can obviously see which scenes are put in after the fact. And yeah, that was released and everybody hates it. So yeah, which for a long time, this movie was not on anything because Jack Russo was like, no, I want there to be like a scarcity and stuff. It's dumb. For some reason, he holds the copyright. So George Romero was like, well, whatever. I'm going to keep making zombie movies, but I'm just not going to say The Living Dead. Which is interesting because the next movie I watched was called Return of the Living Dead, which has nothing to do with the George Romero of the Dead movies. And it's not made by Jack Russo. So I don't know how they got away with this, but they somehow did. This is a zombie movie from 1985. It is... I don't think it's officially categorized as a zomedy movie, which is a genre, like Shaun of the Dead or something. But it is comedic in tone. I'm going to probably not talk about this one a whole lot, just because there is a really great Red Letter Media review of this movie, and it was how I found this movie, and it's a very good review. Yeah, they're like review is like RE:\view. It's and they're talking about movies that they saw originally when it came out, and then they're revisiting them. So it's a quirky title, but they talked about this movie and they did a better job than I ever can. So I'm going to plug that. But in terms of like how this movie influenced the zombie canon going forward, this movie it kind of operates differently than any other zombie movie I have seen. And it's kind of weird. It's a meta horror movie before Scream came out. In this movie, Night of the Living Dead is a movie that exists. And not only that, it's based on true story somehow. How the zombies come about in this movie is that there's a bunch of warehouse guys. They work in like a medical supply warehouse. And for some reason, there's this chemical company. And in the 60s, a chemical got out and it turned people into cannibalistic zombies. And so then the army was sent out and they killed all the zombies, and then some of them were taken alive and put in tanks, and then they were sent back to that chemical company for them to do research on it. And why did this chemical do this? I think it's like trioxin 258 or something. I don't know. But those zombies or whatever, those tanks, they got shipped to the wrong place. They got shipped to this random medical warehouse in Kentucky. I think it's where it takes place. And yeah, they've just been sitting in the basement of this warehouse for a long time. And these two idiots, they are like, hey, let's go see the corpses that Night of the Living Dead is based on. That would be pretty cool. And one of them's like, hey, is it safe? Like, we probably shouldn't be touching these things. And then the other one's like, hey, these are made by the military. They're military grade. And then he like smacks it, and then it bursts immediately and all of the gas gets out. And after that, anything that comes in contact with the gas turns into a zombie or gets like reanimated. To the point where like this medical warehouse had like dogs cut in half so that they could send them to like veterinary school, so that vets in training can look at the anatomy of these dogs, and those like half dogs come back alive, which is horrible because they make like dog yelping sounds like they're in pain the entire time. And they have like a corpse in a like freezer, and that comes alive, and that's kind of the whole thing. They try to destroy the brain of this corpse, and it doesn't work. It's still alive. It gets to the point where they hack it up in a bunch of pieces, and then they go across the street to a mortuary, and then they put all the pieces in the mortuary, and then they put it in a cremator, whatever, a big old oven, and then the the smoke from that oven into the chimney into the atmosphere causes acid rain, and then a nearby graveyard. This is all just like perfect. There's this medical warehouse that is right next to a mortuary that is right next to a graveyard, and after this acid rain rains on the graveyard, then all the zombies come up and they start attacking people. So yeah, the zombies operate a little different. You gotta destroy every single piece of them, or they will just still be alive. To the point where like you chop off a zombie's arm and that arm is gonna try to kill you. So like every single body part can operate independently of each other. So you gotta burn the whole body. But by doing so, you are going to be releasing that trioxin into the atmosphere and creating more zombies. So it's a very bleak movie that is very funny. There's a lot of like funny bits in it. And a lot of that is the warehouse dumbos. They're very funny in the beginning, and then they just get sicker and sicker the entire movie, which is horrifying. But yeah, it's very interesting because these zombies are fast and they are smart, to the point where they can talk. Like there's a very comedic scene where like a bunch of paramedics come out to you know inspect all the phone calls that are being reported of all these weirdos going around, and they get eaten. And then the radio on the ambulance is like, hey, dispatch number 17, situation report. And then one of the zombies gets on the radio and is like, send more paramedics. And it's a very funny joke because they're going to eat the paramedics. And for some reason, the operator's like, oh, okay, I will do that. They just keep sending paramedics. And then cops show up. And then, the cops try to shoot the zombies and they don't do anything. And then the same thing happens. The squad car is like, hey, do you need more cops? And then that same zombie is like, send more cops, it's very funny. And then, just watching all the cops get eaten by the zombies, it's very fun. It's a very fun movie, except for the fact that, the whole thing is just delaying the inevitable. It's, they're like, oh, there's a number on the side of the tank in case of emergency call, but you don't want to call that because that'll call the army in, and the army will just kill everybody. So let's try to think of a solution. And so then all the main characters are trying to think of a solution, and it eventually just gets to the point where they call the number, and the entire town gets nuked because they couldn't think of, it's the army. What else are they gonna do? And so then all the zombies die. But as you can probably expect, it ends on a little cliffhanger, or I guess maybe sequel bait. I don't know. But because, the nuke it burns up all the zombies, and then that mixes the chemical in the atmosphere, and it just creates more zombies. So it didn't even do anything. So it's a Rogue One ending of sorts, and it's very fun. It's a fun movie. I like it. I liked it a lot. But this is the first movie that introduced that zombies eat brains. Probably what zombies are most known for these days, or at least
for some reason, even though like most zombie things don't go by that standard.
Yeah. And in this movie, because the zombies can talk, it's kind of interesting. The main characters, they tie up a zombie at one point, and they're like, why are you eating people? Because it's like right after a zombie eats a brain or takes a bite out of someone's skull like an apple. And so then they feel good, and they're like, I can feel myself rot. I'm dead. I am currently dead, but, I'm feeling myself decay, and it's awful. The only thing that can like soothe that pain is eating brains. So I think this out of all the zombie movies I've ever seen, this is the only one that like talks about that, introduces that into the zombie canon. And, throughout the movie, they're like, brains, I need to eat live brains. Which is probably where that comes from. Because this was a pretty popular movie in the mid 80s. I would say it is a B movie, but it is it's still pretty G-dang good. I liked it a lot. It's kind of cheap and schlocky in a good way. It's very punk rock. Like a lot of the characters are like punks. But this would have been a little past the punk era, but I guess this was movie punk era in the 80s. But yeah, like there's this guy named Suicide, and he's wearing like leather pants and a leather vest, and he's got a like a little nose ring that ties to a chain to his ear, and he's got like a mohawk, and he's super badass, and nobody takes him seriously because he's so over the top. So it has like a sense of humor about it. But yeah, there's this lady, what's her name? Trash. and she's like naked for most of the movie. She's played by, oh, I need to see the it's not Return of the Jedi, you stupid Linnea Quigley. She was a like scream queen in the 80s and a lot of B movies. She was naked in most of them because that's what a 80s B movie was. Even like pretty big franchises like Friday the 13th, I think they were kind of known for nudity. Everybody's very horny in Friday the 13th. So yeah, she's naked for most of the movie because she starts the movie just being like, "Hey, do you guys ever think about how you want to die? I know the worst way to die. It would be if a bunch of old men like tackled me and like ate all my flesh and ripped my clothes off." And as she's doing that, she just starts stripping on like a coffin because they're in a cemetery, and she's just like dancing for her friends naked, which is weird. I've never been in a situation
Me with the homies.
me with the homies. I've never been in a situation with my friends where someone has started stripping, even though
Not yet.
not yet. Even though I have wanted them to,
Yeah.
which is the funny thing.
There's been some crazy movie nights, but then
Crazy movie nights. We've gotten close a couple times, but
really
nobody.
gets me going.
Yeah, sometimes we just watch, Disco Godfather or something, and that just makes us all act up. Rudy Ray Moore just gets us
your
all
weight
hot
on
and
it.
bothered. You put your weight on it. We almost took his advice on that.
True.
But yeah, I don't know. She's just naked for most of pretty much all of the scenes she's in. She's just completely naked, full frontal, everything. She just doesn't care. You can tell that she's just, she's very comfortable being naked on screen, icon or whatnot. But yeah, she's great. She's just naked all the time, and then she like tries to get it on with suicide, and then he's just like, "Oh, come on, lady, have some respect for the dead." It's like, okay, all right. But yeah, it's very funny because then the acid rain starts and she's naked, so it's just like burning her skin. So maybe you shouldn't have stripped in a cemetery. I don't know why anybody would ever do that, but it happens in the movie, so it must have happened in real life because I assume that every movie I see is based on some sort of real event. So
Correct.
yes, I've never been a punk, so maybe this is just big in the punk scene.
You just don't relate to the punk experience.
I don't. So yeah, I don't know. But yeah, it's very good. I would recommend this one too. And then I'm going to talk about one that I maybe would not recommend. I recommend to a very specific type of person. I would recommend it to someone that they are superficially into zombies. They like zombies because they are cool, and they eat brains, and that's metal as fuck. I recommend this movie to those type of people, not to the types of people that maybe were like, I don't want to say are smarter, but are like, zombie for metaphor type things, societal kind of ramifications, which there is some in Return of the Living Dead. I just didn't want to talk about it too much. But I watched the movie Wormwood, Road of the Dead, a 2014 zombie movie. It's an Australian movie,
Boy.
which of course means it is Mad Max meets with something else. Because I am convinced that every Australian movie is somehow influenced by Mad Max. And this one is a little more overtly influenced by Mad Max. I mean, it's literally called Road of the Dead. It's going to be some sort of post-apocalyptic zombie road movie. And this one it's weird. I have in my notes that it's Mad Max meets Evil Dead and Dawn of the Dead, but I mean, Dawn of the Dead is just in that list because it's a zombie movie. Because this is another B movie, but it's a modern day B movie, but not quite like Asylum level. Like this is not a Sharknado level movie. It's like a couple notches above that. But it's weird and dumb and schlocky. I don't know what to say about this movie because I kind of hated it, but also I kind of had fun with it, but also it made me mad because of how dumb it was. Because it kind of started with promise. It starts like really sad, which I think is like, I think every good zombie thing should. You know, I think a lot of zombie movies or zombie, media in general is more or less like about loss and grief because a lot of, good zombie stuff starts with some sort of zombie apocalypse. And with that, a lot of people's like loved ones or family is killed in some sort of way, whether it's by a zombie or whether it's by like the army that is just killing people indiscriminately because nobody knows what's going on. And so this movie kind of starts with that, but it's just for some reason people turn into zombies. There's a meteor shower, and for some reason that causes only specific people to turn into zombies. I'm not going to tell you what type of people turn into zombies until later.
If you're a Pisces.
Vampire
it's,
people.
It's almost that arbitrary. It is so stupid why people turn into zombies. But yeah, there is a meteor shower that happens, and for some reason that makes gasoline not work. Gasoline, like kerosene, any sort of like fossil fuel is no longer flammable. And it also turns specific people into zombies. Or maybe I should say it turns everyone into zombies and only specific people are not turned into zombies. We'll get into that. But yeah, it is a schlocky zombie movie, but the main character, it starts off and, one of the side characters is saying, I had to kill a couple of my friends. And I would say that in terms of zombies, and this is something I haven't talked about yet, you have fast zombies and you have slow zombies. I would say that those are the two kind of major categories in terms of zombie medium. I would say that all of these movies are slow zombies, except for this one is slow and fast. And we'll get into that because that is also dumb and happens for no reason. But yeah, one of the guys is like, yeah, I had to kill, my brother today. I woke up and my brother like killed my dad, and we were just like walking. I started running away from him, but then I realized that he wasn't catching up. So like we just started like walking for a while until I just finally decided to shoot his legs so that he would stop chasing me. And I'm like, whoa, that's kind of heavy. I've never seen that in like a zombie thing where it's just like this kind of long walk that they had together as like a sort of like last goodbye or something. But it's kind of heartbreaking to see it because, one guy is just walking away and the other one is a zombie trying to kill him. It's like, wow, that's kind of sad. And then the main character is like, I had to kill my wife and my daughter today with a nail gun, but like I don't know how to turn that into a story. And then it flashes back to the beginning of the zombie apocalypse. And he and his wife and his daughter, they're driving like in a car with like a gas mask, and they're running over zombies until the daughter turns for no reason. There's a reason, but to us, it's no reason. She's not anything. And then the wife just like kind of starts feeling it. She's like, there's something going on. I want to say goodbye. And like they hug and like they're crying. And like that whole time they're hugging, you're seeing his like face and then the back of her head. And you're just waiting for her to turn into a zombie. And it's legitimately kind of scary and like suspenseful because like, oh, when is that going to happen? And you're on the edge of your seat. And then she turns into a zombie and it's super scary. And then, he has to shoot her with a nail gun, and he opens the back of his car and he shoots his daughter with a nail gun. It's so sad. And then he pulls the nail gun to his own head to kill himself, and he's out of nails. It's an ultimate tragedy. And that's the start of this super schlocky and stupid movie. It starts so dark. And I'm like, wow, this is like tonally darker than everything I have seen, especially this week. I would say they're both of the last two movies are kind of silly. Especially Return of the Living Dead, but Night of the Living Dead is just a little silly in its portrayal of zombies just because it's so old. But this is so dark. It's legitimately scary. And so then like the rest of the movie, the main character, he somehow knows that his sister is like in trouble, which I guess I don't know. I guess I would also assume that my family members are in trouble in a zombie apocalypse. And so then he is like, I gotta go to Bola Bola, which I guess is an Australian town. I don't know. I would assume so, but I am not familiar with Australian towns. And so then he and his pals are trying to go to they're good boys. It's a boy movie. It's just a bunch of lads. Yeah, like the main two guys, they just like happen across like a barn in the middle of the woods, and there's a guy that's kind of like peeking out of the windows and just like taking pot shots at zombies, and they're like, "Oi, can we come in?" And then the other guy just kind of thinks about it. He's like, "Yeah, all right." And then they just like, yeah, he's just with the lads, they're just hanging out. It's like, yeah, come on in. I don't see why not. Even though there's a bunch of zombies at the door. It's fine. Just come on in. And, so then they're like, okay, well, we got to get this car to work, but none of the gas works. But those zombies, they have stinky breath. I wonder. And, they hook a zombie up to the car, and the zombie's breath somehow powers the car.
Of course.
Because that's the level of seriousness that this movie has. And meanwhile, we're seeing what's going on with the main guy's sister. And she's been taken prisoner by some sort of army, some military, something. I don't think it's the Australian military because they're nuts. They're okay. So this is another thing, because they're clearly in the back of a truck the entire time, like the back of like a semi truck, and it's like a lab where there's this guy in a hazmat suit that's doing like torture to both people and zombies, but he's doing it like the guy from Reservoir Dogs is doing torture, where like he has like funny music in the background and he's like dancing while like drilling into people's nostrils. And it's like, okay, I see this is a reference to Reservoir Dogs, but it's so tonally different than how you started this movie. It's ridiculous. And meanwhile, the sister, while they're trying to get to her, this mad scientist guy is injecting zombie blood into the sister's like spinal column, like into the back of her neck. And over the course of the movie, she finds out that she can telepathically control zombies now.
Nice.
Yeah. Let me remind you, this is the movie that started with two two absolutely heartbreaking scenes where people have to murder their family members, and we're at a place now where the sister can control zombies with her mind, and her eyes get like white, and she has to do like dramatic hand motions when she wants to control the zombies, and it is
This is gaming.
it's a gaming moment. But of course, eventually, the main guys, they're driving on the road and they happen across a military truck. And they're like, "Hey, I'm looking for my sister Brooke." And the military guy's like, "Hey, we just came from a base camp where they found some survivors, and I think one of them is named Brooke. You guys should follow us." And the military guys are driving a semi-truck. I wonder what is in the back of the semi-truck. I wonder if it's going to be the sister the whole time. But yeah, as they're, before they follow, they're like, "Hey, you guys must have A negative blood type, because only people who are A negative blood type don't turn into zombies." Why only people with A negative blood type? I don't know, because the meteors liked people with A negative blood type, so they're fine.
Makes sense.
It makes sense to me. And that explains why, the main guy and the sister both are able to survive, because they're genetically similar. So, they probably have the same blood type. And that should also explain why the daughter was... Wait, no, the daughter turned into a zombie anyways. This movie is so stupid. I hate it so much. But also, it's so schlocky and fun. I don't know. It's a perfect 2.5-star movie because it's so dumb and everything about it is stupid, but also it's kind of fun to watch. But I think when the movie ended, I think I audibly said, I'm like, "This is so fucking bad." And I hardly ever say that. Out loud. Out loud to myself. I hardly ever say that. I will say that to people, especially if they get on my nerves. I won't say,
yeah,
"Hey."
I've been on the end of him. You don't want to be there.
Yeah, I tell people off hardcore.
You better watch it, buddy.
You better watch it. Yeah, but it is. It's very dumb. It's on Tubi. So that's the level. That's the level of movie this is that it's on Tubi.
I think you should have started with that.
I probably should have started with that, but that also makes a nice button at the end of it.
Yeah.
That this is a Tubi movie. For some reason, it was on my poster of 1,500 movies you have to see before you die. I think I could have. I think I could have made it my whole life without seeing that movie.
I don't know, man.
Every time I watch a movie like this that is on that poster, I'm like, man, and Perfect Blue was not on there. A masterpiece in psychological thrillers. I don't know if it's because it's an anime movie. It might be.
Gotta be it.
It's probably it. Even though there's anime movies on there, but Perfect Blue is not a underrated gem, or it's not a it's not a little secret thing. It's a very popular movie. So I'm like, man, that movie's not on here, but thank God Wormwood Road of the Dead made the cut. It's a good thing. I don't know. I don't know why it's on here, because it's not like that they're like, "Oh, well, we need one more zombie movie," because there's 50 zombie movies on here. And they're split into fast zombies, traditional zombies, and then alt zombies, which I have not seen any of those. Maybe I should have. Maybe I should have seen an alt zombie movie. Even though that might be Return of the Dead with all their punk rock stuff. But I guess not. And also not this one. This is the most hot topic zombie movie I probably have ever seen, except for I Am Legend.
I Am Leg.
That movie has Shrek in it.
Yeah. It's my favorite scene from that movie,
It's the best
where he
scene.
just recites Shrek word for word, and everybody's so surprised. And then it's never brought up again.
Yeah, it's like, why? 'Cause isn't there like a kid that's watching Shrek on
Yeah.
the TV, and he's like, "Yeah, my
Yeah.
my kid loves Shrek," and then he starts like
He
saying,
just does the whole scene.
"Yeah." Which, have you ever seen the deleted ending for that movie?
I don't think so.
Oh, it's very interesting. It's not good, but I wouldn't say that the ending
I
to
wouldn't
I Am
imagine
Legend
so.
is not great.
Yeah.
If I remember right, I Am Legend ends with like there's that female zombie that he's doing experiments on, and then like a bunch of zombies break in, and then I think the lab blows up, right? Like he blows the lab up,
I don't remember.
doesn't he?
Probably.
I think that's the
Remember.
ending to I Am Legend. The deleted ending that they didn't end up going with, and I don't know if this is the ending in the book because it is based on a book. The zombies come in, and then instead of eating Will Smith, they just kind of like take the female zombie out of the lab, and then like one of them roars at Will Smith, and then they turn around and they have like a mutual agreement where it's like, okay, we just wanted our lady back. That's why we were mad. So yeah, I don't know why that one was like, no, that's too far fetched. But we can have a scene where he talks Shrek with a kid. Yeah, I don't know. I Am Legend. That's a weird movie, and the zombies are just like bald people. They're CGI bald people.
Makes sense.
It makes sense.
Those are the real zombies all along.
Whenever I
Yeah.
see someone bald in the outside world, I'm like, oh, I should have stayed in today. Should have stayed in today.
Breaking Bad is a scary show.
Yeah.
Everybody's
It makes
very
Heisenberg
bald.
make a lot more sense. He just turns into a zombie as
That's
the show goes
it.
on.
Because he starts and he
He's
has hair.
Bald. Yeah, he starts with hair and then he's bald.
Then he shaves his head, and that's when he breaks bad.
Yeah.
AKA
and then Jesse
turns into a
shaves his
buff.
head and then he turns into a zombie too.
And Mike was just always bald.
Mike was always a zombie.
He was
He
always
was
like
born
this.
that way.
Yeah. Well, probably not. Well, actually, everybody's born a zombie because nobody's born
Ooh.
with hair.
Yeah.
Aren't
I
all
guess
babies
You
bald?
couldn't really make this work as a movie, I guess, as we think.
Actually, my half sister actually was born with some hair.
Some babies are born with hair, yeah.
Yeah,
I
I
don't
think
know.
it's more rare than not having hair, but I think sometimes they do.
Okay, well then we need to have a zombie movie where everybody's born a zombie, but then like those rare every Greek person is just not a
Every
is not a
Turkish
zombie.
man is
Yeah, all those people are just the only survivors.
yeah.
That would be that's honestly no, it's not better than the A negative blood thing. But yeah, I don't know. Honestly, I would have preferred the for no reason, like the return, like the Night of the Living Dead is just like whatever. For some reason, it's
That's
happening.
what The Walking Dead is. There's no reason.
Oh, okay.
And it follows all the same rules as Dawn of the Dead, I think.
Okay. Yeah, you just gotta destroy the brain, or light them on fire,
Yeah.
or throw a
I
pie
think
at their
fire
face.
doesn't even work on that.
Doesn't work on
You
Walking
gotta
Dead.
destroy the brain.
Yeah, that is
And everybody's infected, but we don't know why.
everybody.
Yes.
Oh.
So when you die, you will turn, basically.
Oh.
That's
Okay.
their explanation for it.
Okay. I need to watch the Walking Dead, or at least the first
It's
couple.
a really
seasons.
good show up until like 6, actually 7. Watch until season 7, episode 1, and then you're good.
Just watch
That's
the
when-
first episode.
Well, you'll have to after the end of season 6.
Oh, okay. And then it just downhill.
And
from
then
there,
after
huh?
that, it goes downhill. Yeah.
It's like Game of Thrones,
But it is pretty great, despite people making fun of it all the time because of how bad it got after the initial run.
Well, sure, but the
It used
first
to be in like contention with Game of Thrones when it was coming out. So
yeah. Isn't the first is it just the first season that is by, was it Frank Darabont,
yeah,
the Shawshank Redemption guy,
Mhm.
Green Mile. Yeah, I mean, I'll have to check it out. I know.
And I think Romero worked with the show for like
I
effects
think
and stuff.
so. Yeah. Who did the effects for Dawn of the Dead? It's like Frank. I want to say Frank Ziti, but there's no way his name is Frank Ziti.
Frank Ziti,
It's something. He has a
most
Z name.
Italian man in existence.
He's very Italian, and I think he also did the effects on Friday the 13th 1 and 4. Is 4 the final chapter?
Probably.
Okay, that's the one that says it's the final chapter, and then there's like 7 more sequels,
Of course.
including Jason Goes to Space. Same thing the
Every horror
Leprechaun did.
trilogy. The Leprechaun goes to space.
Let me see who did the effects for Dawn of the Dead.
But I think you'd enjoy it. The practical effects in it are like pretty next level.
I mean, I'm sure I would. I love practical effects.
Yeah.
Especially practical zombie effects, I think are great. I did not mention that in Return of the Living Dead, but I would highly recommend if you have not seen what they call the Tar Man. It might be the best zombie I've ever seen. It is ridiculously cool because it is like the zombie in the tank, and because like all of the gas was coming out of the tank, it like melted him. So like this zombie is like he's like all melted, and like the way he moves his body is that like he has like no control over his like limbs. It's so cool. So yeah, I'll have to check out The Walking Dead. And
Walking Dead.
the guy who did Dawn of the Dead, his name is Tom Savini. So not quite, what did I say, Frank Ziti. I like Frank
Ziti will
Ziti.
ever be a person in my head though.
Frank Ziti. That's what his name should be. But yeah, Tom Savini. But yeah. Very, very interesting fella. He was a Vietnam vet, and then he came back and then did a bunch of practical effects for horror movies. So, yeah. But that's my little deep dive I did into zombies this week. I'm not sure what I'm going to be able to do next week because I'm working a lot. But I originally had the idea to do I, Tanya, I, Robot, and I, Vitelloni. Because I think that's funny.
That is pretty funny.
Which maybe I'll still do that. But yeah, three very different movies. But they all just have I in the front. So that's the only connection. Which I feel like whenever I do movies, little stuff like that, it always it either ends really great and I like all 3 of them for very different reasons, or it's terrible and I hate myself for doing these stupid gimmicks. But I'm gonna do it anyways. So I'm sure I'll like I, Tanya because I love Margot Robbie, but I, Robot, that's the one with Will Smith and like weird like that weird robot that
Yeah.
you know the other robots from
I
Robot.
absolutely do.
So that's a little sneak peek for next time. But I think that'll do it. That's all I have. That's it for zombies until I watch more zombie movies. I'm probably, when October rolls around, I'm probably going to do one genre per week in terms of like horror stuff. So I'll probably do a vampire week and a zombie week and a demon possession week and a spooky week. I don't know. Ghost movie. Nothing scarier than a ghost.
True.
Except for
Zach Bagans.
Zach Bagans is scarier.
He is a little spooky.
He is very scary, and he can catch all the ghosts, so that makes him scary. Because the only thing it's the only thing that a ghost is scared of is Zach Bagans.
He's a collaborationist with the
He's a
ghosts.
collaborationist. I should have known. It's all scripted. Not that like ghosts are fake, but the ghosts are in on it. And they're reading the script that Zach Bagans.
They're getting half the money he makes.
Oh man, that's their unfinished business. It's not like I need to get forgiveness from my daughter or something. It's like, no, I signed a contract with Zach Bagans.
I need to pay off my debt because it still is here after I die.
Ooh, Capitalism. Ooh.
The scariest specter of them all.
That's right. Uh, yeah, I guess we'll move on to Babby's section. So take it away.
Da-da-da-da.
Okay. Big week for annoying people, aka me. Um, we had Arm and Hammer and we had Injury Reserve this week, which is, you know, two nerd things.
Yeah.
But we got the first Arm and Hammer single from the new album, We Buy Diabetic Test Strips. Great album name. They sent me a media mailer, which is kind of fun. I got a little postcard from them.
Oh.
They sent it to the wrong address, so I got it later than I was supposed to get it. So it probably would have been a lot more exciting if I didn't know about the album when I received it. But still, kind of cool.
Yeah.
But this one is Trauma Mike, DJ Haram on production. She kills it. What I'm looking for with this record was like more abrasive, in your face, like eccentric Arm and Hammer, like Paraffin, which is what got them pretty popular. And that's kind of exactly what we're getting, I think, because this thing is nasty. It's industrial. It's noisy. It is. You can't make sense of it. Pink Sifu's on here, does an amazing kind of intro with it. Reminds me of like when Earth Gang does their more like eccentric kind of choruses. Elucid kills it on this thing. Elucid's always weird because like I love him on Arm and Hammer records, but like I feel like he's too much for me on his solo records because the man goes a million miles a minute and never stops. But it works beautiful when they're in the duo. And against the noise beat, it was just fantastic. Billy Woods comes in, drums drop, fantastic. Just I'm so excited for this thing. This is one of those where I feel like they released it as a single, but it's gonna like flow perfectly within the track list. It's not like a standout song; it's just a song, but it still sounds amazing. So that'll be coming out end of September. I wonder if we'll get 2 singles off this thing. We might, but they did release the production credits on the album, and this is going to be absolutely incredible. So we got DJ Haram, which is we know. We have Preservation, who did Aethiopes with Billy Woods, Steel Tip Dove, who's on Backwoods as well. Messiah Music, who did Church, I believe, last year. Kenny Segal, who just did his one on Maps. But we also have LP, which is going to be crazy. I've been waiting for that. And JPEG Mafia has 4 credits.
4 credits.
So, yeah.
After saying baking soda in
yes.
whatever is it in Cornballs?
Whatever.
No,
it was
LP.
in his last album. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there was a beef between Arm and Hammer and Peggy for a while. They kind of got over that last year, and now he's got 4 production credits on here, which is fantastic. I'm so happy that that's a thing because, like, it's kind of it was a petty, stupid thing. So I'm glad they were able to work it out and get more production credits from him because, like, they're such a good combo. They only have 1 song technically together on Rome, which is like one of the best Arm and Hammer songs. So I'm super happy that this is happening. But given that track list, production track list, I'm definitely leaning towards is going to be more industrial, noisy. Again, it'll always be abstract and off kilter because that's what they do. But I think it'll hit hard. So I'm guessing it's going to be a Paraffin Part 2 where it kind of takes people by storm and it'll probably reach outside of its intended target audience, much like that album did. And this is also on Fat Possum, so it's going to get a label boost, being on a bigger label with more media outlet coverage. So this should be good for them. I'm excited. But we'll see. The vinyl came out. It's $55. I can't spend $55 on a vinyl. Vinyl prices are so crazy right now. Taylor Swift is literally choking out the vinyl industry when she releases 13 different color variants of a re-released album 4 times a year, which is awesome. So I'll get one eventually of it probably, but I'm not paying $55 for a standard vinyl.
Yeah.
Mac Miller had the 5-year anniversary of Swimming this week as well. So vinyl I did purchase is they have the NPR Tiny Desk on vinyl. Had to cop that. It looks phenomenal.
I didn't know they did vinyls of those.
I didn't either, but I am so happy that one has one. definitely gonna get a frame for it. I don't think I need to listen to a vinyl that has 3 songs on it that are recorded live and on a video I can watch. That would be better anyways.
Yeah.
But I mean, the vinyl looks really cool. The cover's awesome. So had to cop that one. I think there's a swimming 5-year anniversary edition too, but it's $80. And I already have swimming. I'm not paying $80 for that. So respectively.
Yeah.
Other thing that came out this week was Injury Reserve, or By Storm, which is their new name going forward. So this is technically the last song on the Injury Reserve name, and then they're retiring that. So double trios the song, 7 minutes long. I'm glad they're keeping the same weird, glitchy, noisy, I don't even know, abstract rap that they did on the last album. But they're mixing in some jazz elements and stuff here and there, which is really, really cool. I'm very excited to see what they do going forward. I don't think this is going to turn into an album. I think this was kind of like a, here's where we are, here's an update, this is the new band name, we're retiring the old one, here's one last song to kind of tie a knot on everything. So we'll see where they go from here, but I mean, it definitely sounds promising. I love that they're embracing the style that they had on the last album, because honestly, nobody sounds like this in any genre right now. So very excited for them. Hopefully we get something soon. But also, I mean, they can take their time. I mean, by the time I get to Phoenix, it was a masterpiece. So take as much time as you need on that.
Yeah.
Then there was another Billy Woods feature this week. I think, I don't remember who the main artist on this is, but he's from Sons of Kemet, which is like a abstract jazz, psychedelic jazz outfit in London. So he paired up with Billy Woods and did a song together, Apothecary. This one's really good. Billy Woods just steals the entire year at this point, because he is just not stopping at all. But pretty good, very jazzy, abstract, but hits pretty hard. So check that one out. But that was all the new stuff that came out this week. We do have No Name's new album Sundial coming out this Friday, so I'll definitely be giving a review of that next week. I'm very excited for that. I haven't heard anything from No Name in years, but very excited for that. What else is coming out? I don't think much is coming out this week. Last week had virtually nothing in terms of albums. But that makes sense. After I think the 28th of August or July was like the big boy. And now it's kind of in the typical chill mode for a while. But we will be getting James Blake next month. I think he released a new song this week. I just haven't listened to it yet. But excited for that too. So that's what we got for new stuff. But I did go to a Bon Iver concert this weekend, so do want to talk about that a little bit. So Bon Iver came to Madison. He is a Wisconsin native, if people don't know. So this is like the second coming of Jesus whenever he comes in town. And it was pretty fantastic. It was outside the same venue I saw Phoebe Bridgers in, so pretty similar setup. But I will say this is like one of the best set lists like I've ever heard. Kind of on par with the Kendrick one, except it might be better than the Kendrick one, at least pacing. It's just like all the hits, like everything you wanted is there. He only missed one song that I wanted, but everything else was just there. This was good because it's not necessarily a tour from his last album in 2019. It was just kind of an overall tour, which is great. I love when artists do that, because then you get a wide range of their catalog, which is what you want. So I think the first 4 songs were like all from different records. It just like had a whole rounded out feel. The light show that went with it is pretty great as well. I do wish the venue was inside, because people wouldn't shut up, because when they think they're outside at a concert, they can just talk for some reason. And I would have liked the light show to be indoors, because it's a little bit more immersive. But I will say, like, set list wise, incredible, hits everything. Especially for the more electronic stuff from like 22 a Million, there was like some different compositions going on. They were trying some different things, so it's still definitely the same song, but little altercations here and there were really, really, really nice. Yeah, I mean, even just like the ending of the show, like the last 5 or 6 tracks. I'm just looking at the set list again, and it like never ends on the quality. But I mean, he even did something like 45, which is like one of my favorite songs on 22 a Million, and it's really just like a little saxophone interlude. But they made a long, like 5-minute version of it. They had a sax player up there. Just did absolutely amazing. I was really curious to see how he was going to do something like Creeks, which uses the same kind of vocal manipulation that I need to remember what the song is. You know the song. I'm just trying to find our playlist that has it in it.
Oh. Bon Iver song?
No. I'm trying to see. It's in our best songs playlist. I just need to find it.
Oh.
Where are you?
Best
Oh yeah, Hide and Seek, Emotion Heap. Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
So, yeah, same kind of effect. I was curious how they were going to do that live. But what he does is they specifically created a software for that effect for their album. So, like, he can on the fly harmonize with himself, high and low as he talks, and he can move the auto tune around. And Justin Vernon's voice is one of the most unique because he can hit a high falsetto, but also a really low voice, so he gets the entire range on it, and he's doing it live. So every version is different and unique, which worked fantastic. It was incredible. But they applied that same effect to the saxophone solo on 45, which was really, really, really cool. So it was very impressive because you're moving between like his more organic folk stuff of the early stuff and his more electronic stuff with his last two albums, and they're doing it all in one set list without any breaks in between. So there must have been so much like pedals and everything going on for them to flawlessly being able to like transition between all of those. His vocals live are fantastic. They're just as good as studio vocals, which is great. It's always like, okay, I know he can do a low register and a high register, but he was switching between them like seamlessly, like an hour into the set still. So it was just really fantastic. But I mean, you have this run here where it's like Blood Bank 45, 33 God, and then Stax and Holocene right next to each other. If people know Bon Iver, that is like a god tier run of songs, especially like Stax into Holocene. Like that, you can't do that to somebody. It was kind of insane when that happened. This is like, I don't know if when he went to other festivals or other tour dates, if he went this hard in the set list. But this is like pretty flawless when you like as flawless as you can get with a set list. But yeah, it was really good. So, I don't know. It's just, it was so good. I'm waiting for him to release something new. It's been 3 years.
Yeah, it's been a
even when he
minute.
played Please Don't Live in Fear, that was the last song he released, and that was like 2020 COVID. So I'm hoping they come out with something new. They definitely seem really sharp right now. So
Yeah, we need to react to some of their stuff.
true. Yeah, I need to get you on that train.
I
Still
yeah, I
hasn't
have not
been a thing
listened to
yet.
any Bon Iver stuff except for the Taylor Swift songs.
Correct. Which
Yeah.
are decent.
I like Evermore.
No, yeah. Evermore's pretty good. But yeah, I this is one of those concerts where like I haven't listened to these songs in like 2 or 3 years. So I knew all the songs, but I didn't remember like half of their names. So I'm like, ooh, I like this song, and I forgot the name of it, but I like know it by heart. But I mean, even just the earlier stuff like Towers and Wash, like Perth into Wash into Towers was crazy. 22 a Million is my favorite, so I always like, the more electronically focused songs. But the warm sound coming from the band from the older stuff was just amazing. Stax is probably the best Bon Iver song. Everybody kind of shut up when that happened because everybody was like, "Oh my God, it's the one!" Like one of the best folk songs ever written, and that was performed beautifully. And then Holocene being another very popular, near flawless Bon Iver song right after it was just next level. So really fantastic. One of the best concerts I've been to. I still think Godspeed's probably the best one I've been to, just because like you get an entire musical experience physically and mentally when you go to a Godspeed show, because the music literally like shakes you, and it's sustained sound for 20 minutes at very loud volumes. You walk out of the concert after that, and like it feels like you step off of a plane or a boat, and your body just doesn't know how to like adjust. So I don't think anything's beaten that for a while. Although the set list was like a lot weaker at that show. If there was like a flawless set list for the Godspeed concert, I wouldn't need to go to another concert ever. But this was really great. So yeah, the audience was like a little weird, just because like there was so many people, and like half of them were just like there to meet with friends and talk and like kind of listen to the music.
Yeah.
Which that's the downside of an outside theater. And festivals in general, which I don't really like, but I mean,
Yeah,
it was
me
still a
neither.
good volume where I was able to like enjoy it. So, yeah, I think it would be tied with the Phoebe concert I saw at the same arena. I mean, Bon Iver has more of a lasting like impression, just because the music's been out longer and I've been listening to it longer. But they were both pretty fantastic. So
Yeah.
yeah, and I think that's it for music. I don't really have anything prepared for my other segment, because work has been crazy, and the last thing I want to do after working like that is come home and write.
Yes.
So
That's fine.
I'll probably pick it up next week.
Yeah.
Hopefully,
Yeah.
we'll pick something fun, and it could be something that's actually fun or something that's not fun at all. But you know,
That's too fun.
yay! I can do fun. We'll find something fun.
Let's
As fun as I
talk
can make that.
about- Yeah, I don't even know what would be fun to talk about.
We could do military ads and how bad they are.
Oh, that would be fun. That actually would be fun.
Yeah. Let's plan on that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Military woke.
Let's plan on that. I'm not sure how much time I'm gonna have to have some movie time. Things been really crazy at work. This week I'm working 6 days. I had my day off on Monday, and then I'm not going to have a day off until the week after next. I'm working 7 days next week because a couple other people left, and then the guy that I'm covering for, we just found out, has lymphoma. So yeah, so I'm going to be covering a lot. I'm going to be working a lot. I'm going to get a lot of money, but
Yikes.
what am I going to, I'm not going to have any time to enjoy it.
Work before life, bros. Let's go.
That's true. I'm on
grind
that
don't
grind
stop.
set.
Grind.
But yeah, I'll find some time. I'll watch some movies. I don't know if I'll watch all three. We'll see. We'll see how I'm feeling. Yeah. I'm also probably going to be rewatching Breaking Bad pretty soon, because me and my girlfriend are going to Albuquerque in October.
You got to study.
And I said, we're going to go to Albuquerque because she wants to see the balloons. There's a big balloon festival in Albuquerque in October. I said, we're going to go. But when we're there, we have to see the Breaking Bad
Gotta
house.
go to the Breaking Bad house.
We
You
gotta
see
see.
the
We gotta see the statue, and we gotta see Los Pollos Hermanos,
Of course.
which is a different fast food restaurant, but it's Los Pollos Hermanos.
You
to
can
me.
still do the funny point, like, there it is. Oh my God.
I could jokingly put a car bomb on
Yeah.
someone's car and then have someone take a picture of me. And
You just got to be like Walter, and you got to go on this random fast food restaurant that is the Los Pollos Hermanos and just sit there for like 10 hours.
that's right. I forgot that's how that happens. Or I'll just say, "Where's Lyle? Where's that little guy?" So yeah.
I need to see your boss.
So I said to my girlfriend, who has never seen Breaking Bad, I said, we're going to watch a couple episodes at least. If you don't like it, we don't have to keep watching it. But, I want you to at least have seen the Breaking Bad house, because we're probably going to drive by. So I don't know if I'm going to talk about it, because
What's left to say?
what's left to say. And I mean, I think we did talk about it way back in the day when we were watching it together. So go back and find it. I don't know where it is. I can't direct you to an episode. I don't even know if we named the episodes after the Breaking Bad or if it was just something stupid because it's
It probably was just something stupid.
yeah. I don't even know. That probably wasn't even on Spotify. That was probably
We weren't really even a podcast until like episode 110 or something. So.
yeah, not until we got on Spotify, I would say, which was 100, I think.
Somewhere around there, yeah.
I think so.
100.
And now I think we're a decent podcast.
Yeah.
We're getting there. Maybe one day we'll be a good podcast, but that's why.
Give it 3 more years.
Yeah, you're all early investors. I was there when they sucked. You can put that on a T-shirt.
I was there when they really sucked.
I've been here since episode 53. Which you can't even listen. Well, you
I
can't
feel
listen.
bad
to.
for you if you've been here since episode 53.
I don't think anybody has been around that long.
I hope not.
I don't know. We're getting a couple of listens these days, but not enough to really justify us doing it.
No.
So, and with that positive note, I guess bye.